What's going on, boys? Thanks to our patrons and Fiverr customers, subscribe to our Patreon free for behind the scenes stuff. Arm yourselves, typology stuff. We are talking a bit about INTJs today. They're an odd type, and their existence makes me question why popular typology is the way it is. Because popular typology describes INTJs as these hyper individuals, the most capable solos. But the more I look at them and think about them, the more they seem to me like their life purpose is especially narrow and they function best in a team. I mean, they're capable of interfacing with society and being productive the way TE types, even inferior TE types, tend to be. But you ask those, why are you here questions, like we did last time. Why is an INTJ here? They seem like natural specialists. They are exceptional at one thing, and that one thing is usually going to be something odd. And to add to that, when I say do one thing, I mean either specifically build one thing or destroy one thing. This is one of those characteristics that's been true of every INTJ I've known or dealt with. They might engage in a number of things, but all those things serve whatever their target is. They're target oriented people. It's like they start the book with the last word. How you arrive there, or whether or not you arrive there, will depend on you, but your target is clear, however you feel about that, and you know it because you always end up back in this thing's orbit. And my relation to INTJs, you would think, or I would think, we should get along because the righteousness thing or the call we talk about would seem like it would line up with whatever this thing INTJs are fixated into is, but that isn't the case. And I think that's because of the distinction between a determination and a call or a direction. There's a big difference between a destination and a direction. And thinking about it now, maybe that's a good way to differentiate ENTJs and INTJs. Both types are goal oriented, but what do you get when you talk to each type about their goals? An INTJ will talk extensively about their destination and the road they see themselves taking to get there. Whereas an ENTJ will talk endlessly about the method. The ENTJ is all about the game. They got that dog in them. And in terms of texture, I don't know why this helps, but it does help me when I'm thinking about types. INTJs, when they're in their locked in mode, feel crystalline, and ENTJs feel like gravel. So, how does this factor into INTJ teamwork? Why, if INTJs are these destination oriented people, why would they or should they work best in a team rather than independently? Well, INTJs are spurgy. That's another curiosity about them. When an INTJ is in coast mode, at their least motivated, in terms of productivity, they're actually well rounded, capable, productive people. They're pretty good at being humans when they don't give a shit about anything. You're listless, you're depressive, you're considering suicide, but boy, are things getting done when they're supposed to be getting done. But that changes when their purpose comes online. Everything they've done or learned to do is forgotten. Everything they've built toward is thrown away. All that remains is the destination and the tools required to their minds to get there. to build it, or to destroy it. And these things tend to be weird. Another interesting thing about INTJs: intuitive, intuition dominant people. They seem to have one of those touched funny as a kid relationships with introverted intuition. It draws them in and it repulses them. It seems to be ambivalence in the extreme regarding trusting their own intuition. And the fact they feel ambivalent is odd because on the outside it doesn't look like you're ambivalent at all. It looks like you have tunnel vision. There's not trusting or distrusting, there is possession in the exorcism sense. In other words, if there's some internal battle going on, then on the outside it looks like you've already lost. And what are these destinations, or these targets? It's either something to be built, a method refined to a point it doesn't look like the old method anymore, even though it's still sharing the DNA, or something totally new, or they are crusading against something as if it's the end of the world that nobody else knows about or cares about. And once again, once they are locked in, most other aspects of their life or their capabilities shut down. That's why I say, despite popular stereotyping, I think INTJs operate best in a team that will tolerate them and care about them, despite an INTJ's laundry list of faults at the best of times. Faults to my tastes. I know some people love cunty, abrasive, shitty expression people. I know some people love when a person gives a shitty opinion at a bad time when nobody asked. I know some people love being around someone, being associated with someone who will give your important coworkers a shitty look, like they just stepped on their shoes or something, only later to find out that entire look and uncomfortable silence came from your coworker's accent. Not in a racist way, of course. There's just some historical precedent that that accent is associated with bad people. I'm not saying that your coworker is a bad person, and I'm not racist, but that accent, ugh. I know some people love people like that. INFPs seem to eat that shit up for some reason. I don't get it. For every INTP walking around with an INFJ, both together going in a negative TIFE direction, there is an INTJ walking around with an INFP going in a negative FITE direction. These pairings are very good at making each other worse, which can be fun, but that's a separate conversation. Anyway, an INTJ needs people around them who like them for what they are, because when they lock in, they will need help. They'll need someone to help keep them on track, to keep them safe from other people who don't like what they are so much. Once again, don't like them for what they are at the best of times, and when an INTJ is locked in, they are obnoxious. And an INTJ also needs these people around them who will tolerate them at their absolute worst. It's like they're going through a chrysalis state or going into a mental cocoon, but instead of developing a hard outer shell within which they can evolve, they just become neurodivergent assholes acting erratically. But looking at this in total, what an INTJ is and what they do, why would anyone want to help an INTJ when they're locked in and approaching either the destination or a destination? The power of friendship is great, but what's the actual benefit here? Well, I think an INTJ's destination is beneficial. Not just to the INTJ, though that can be the case sometimes, but also to the people around them. never or rarely to society as a whole. You get some INTJs sometimes you could argue are like that, whose destinations you think would benefit society as a whole. But if you feel that way, it's more likely their destination would be a benefit to you. But because of what INTJs are, how divisive they are, how agitating they are, odds are good if they achieve their goal, a fair number of people will not be happy about it. Either what it is, or how they got there, or that their getting there has deprived this other person of the opportunity to get there. And I think this is the thing to keep in mind when you are informal or social team building. You're not making friends, you are building a gang. I don't think it's a good idea to go looking for an INTJ. Or if you're an INTJ, I don't think it's a good idea to go looking for a group. In both cases, I mean specifically. I want to find this set of things. INTJs look to me to be another one of these connected with the soil process people. That's probably why the INTJ ISTP mistype exists. In terms of flavor, they're flavored similarly. Your shit, allow yourself to be thrown at walls until you hit one you stick on. I think it's important to trust the organicness of this process. Because if you let it happen, not only will you end up around people who are suited to you, which you'll all need, because with INTJs, their obnoxiousness, they're masters of obnoxiousness. If you think you can force yourself to tolerate somebody expecting to get a good outcome, and your opponent or your ally is an INTJ, they will find ways to break your willingness to tolerate them. It needs to be natural, because I think that's the only way you can deal with an INTJ's cunt code. You have the beat of the song down naturally, so when it escalates, it's not a matter of raising your tolerance even higher and then working even harder to maintain it. You already have what you need to do down intuitively. And then the payoff for that entire group is the INTJ's destination or vision seen. I think that's a component of the naturalness too. If you can intuitively tolerate them on all levels, then the achievement they achieve with your help will be something naturally tuned to you as well. Fucking NI types. Disgusting. I see it and I don't understand it. That's the theme with INTJs, at least when I'm studying them. I can see the patterns, I can have ideas about them, but the whys behind them make no sense to me. And on that entire NI front, I think ENTJs are tolerable to me only because we're supposed to be. We got paired up and taught a separate language so we can understand one another well enough. But even with ENTJs, once again, I see now how NI works. I still don't understand why it works, and why, if you can see how it works on this... No, shit. I just had my little NI lightning bolt. Okay, it's not that NI is mystical. You can see the way NI works on a mechanical level. It's more that NI seems to tap into patterns that the patterns are mystical, or the patterns are freaky and loaded with implications. So INTJs and NI types in general are freaky by extension. You understand what a radio is and how it works, but that doesn't make you feel any better about the weird voice you're hearing and the static coming out of the radio. That's probably why I'm fixated on ISTPs. As types, ISTPs make sense, but it's the when they get weird, when they get quirked up and stare at a tree for 3 hours. It's not just a weird behavior. There feels like there's gravity in there. That makes me confused as to what NI-DOMs are, because they don't... Well, okay, no. INFJs are freaky when they're alone. INFJs don't act like humans when they're alone. But INTJs are weird in their NI mode because you would expect dominant NI to be weirder than tertiary NI, and thus far that hasn't been the case. They have that mystery gravity to them, but they're outdone by ISTPs by far. ISFPs, I'm sure, I haven't studied them much. They're difficult to study, but ESPs, when they get into NI mode, they're even stranger, but they don't do it very often or publicly. But that's another thing while we're here regarding NI and patterns and purpose. I think the reason INTJs are as obnoxious as they are, and why I'm developing a tolerance for it, even though I still don't like it, is they need to be that way to get to their destinations. Because if they're able to be thrown off while they're trying to lock in, then they will never get where they're going or do what they need to do. So I recognize the fact it's an essential part of them. I still don't like it. But yeah, it's all mysteries upon mysteries. You think you've figured something out and you feel good about it, and then over time a shadow comes upon you. You feel little rat teeth gnawing at you, and you realize you've missed something more, and it's important, and then you dive into it. Maybe you figure that out too, and then it keeps happening. One thing after another. You are always missing the most important thing. It has always been right in front of you, and it will always elude you. But I think we'll cut it here. INTJs are good in teams. They are symbiotic with groups of people who are attuned to their frequencies. They need them because they occasionally go into lock-in mode, and when they're locked in, they need support, and they're assholes because they need to be assholes to be able to lock in properly. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't.